What's up, everyone? It's episode number 108 of Infinity and Beyond, presented by DisKingdom.com, your weekly Disney video game podcast with me, Roger, and James there in sleepy Washington. It's not that sleepy at the minute, I suppose.
There's a lot of people sleeping here. I'm just not one of them.
So, on this week's show, we're going to be discussing the new, the re-releases of the Disney retro games, Jungle Book, Aladdin, and also The Lion King. We're also going to be talking about the DLC for Marvel Ultimate Alliance Mix, some Lego Star Wars, and also Galaxy in Turmoil. I'm probably having a bit of a discussion about re-releases and stuff. So I think we shall kick off with really kind of the big news of the week that was kind of a complete surprise, was the re-release of 3 classic Disney retro games on the PC, Aladdin, The Lion King, and The Jungle Book. These are out. I have been playing them. I have put up 2 reviews, put up videos on a few of these. The Jungle Book one will be going up tonight. Just in general, just giving my initial thoughts. I know, James, you haven't picked these up yet, but you remember playing these originally when they came out.
That's right. I played Lion King and Aladdin back when they were brand new games. Never played Jungle Book. I didn't even know there was a Jungle Book game until they re-released it. So I'm a little behind the curve on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I remember renting the Jungle Book and the Lion King when I was a kid from Blockbuster. You know, you'd go in there and rent games every single week. You'd go in and I'd rent a game. Though I do remember owning Aladdin. So that was, I think, but then I think owning Aladdin on the Genesis, it was like, I think it was the second most highest selling game after Sonic the Hedgehog on the Genesis.
I remember going and renting games too. I never owned any of these. These were all rentals. And I think, I remember for Lion King, I'm very glad I rented it because of that wildebeest level. Just so annoying.
To be honest, this is the thing. I mean, it was kind of quite funny really in terms of how I've been playing this week, because I spent one night playing Aladdin and literally like first go, I was, an hour into it. And it's like, right, okay, I've actually got to go to bed. And it was like literally it was just like putting on like, comfy suit, and it was just, the controls all seem to be fine. You can map them up with your controller. So I was playing on the Xbox One controller, seemed to be working fine. And it's the same with all 3 of them actually on that point of things. Put in the Lion King, and man, that's a tough game. That is so, I don't know who they were aiming that game at when they made it, because it was pretty tough. That the emu level or the ostrich level, I was stuck on it for ages. I mean, this is that kind of weird thing of like not having like save states and continues, and we're kind of quite cushioned now that you can, if you suck at a game, you can still just keep going until you eventually do it. It didn't work like that back then.
Oh no, this was back in the day of the original. This is Super Nintendo, I guess, and Genesis. Yeah. Back when developers had to artificially lengthen games by making them just atrociously hard. I mean, there's a reason we call them Nintendo hard, Yeah.
And also you had the Jungle Book as well, which was re-released. Now I'm gonna be honest, I like that. I think the Jungle Book is actually maybe slightly underestimated. It's very similar. I mean, you go along and you throw bananas at people and you jump. So they're all kind of very similar. They're all made by the same sort of teams, I think. But the Jungle Book one actually, I think, is better than the Lion King version, even because it's a little bit more playable, and it's maybe a little bit easier, so you can kind of enjoy it a lot more. So it's this kind of thing of the re-releases on the PC. So I'm going to quickly just touch on the one issue of all 3 of these is they're ports, but they are very basic ports. I don't think there's been any adjustments because of the MS-DOS versions of the game rather than the console versions, which I think the trouble is what they've been advertised as like retro, relive your childhood and all the rest of it, but these weren't the versions you played. These are slightly very different. The graphics are different because they were the DOS versions. So that, the Aladdin, for example, playing the Genesis version or the Mega Drive one is far superior in terms of how it looks. There's some real big difference in the graphics. So there was always that thing with Aladdin that the Super Nintendo version was done by a different team than the Genesis version, and so the SNES version didn't have a sword. So they are DOS versions, so they aren't exactly the same. Though I mean, to be honest, they're pretty close. You can't, when they've been like, they get open in full screen mode, and then once you kind of exit off to kind of go into a different window, you can never resize them again. And like Lion King is tiny. So that's the one sort of, I would say, technical issue with the port that is a little bit annoying, especially like for me, because I was doing some recordings of them when I was playing it again later on, and I just left it on full screen. It wasn't just a bit of, if you want to change the sound or something, turn the volume up and down. I got an issue of it not being able to resize properly.
This seems to be kind of the way of the ports, is they do kind of a bare bones and they just get it running. We also saw this with the X-Wing games back when LucasArts re-released those, and obviously another another game that we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes with the news articles. But it'd be nice if they'd kind of polish these up, especially if they end up releasing them on some other PC platforms, or even porting them to like the Xbox or PS4. Do more than just slap some achievements on them. Just do a little bit of up-tuning.
But I mean, I think these are very, very, very bare bones versions. There's, these are just basically just bringing the DOS versions over, which I always thought you could play DOS games on your Windows anyway, but I didn't realize they had a little bit more tweaking with it. But this is kind of like two things on this. First off, I appreciate the fact that these have been re-released officially. They're only available on GOG. These are exclusive to them, and this fits in that Disney had been re-releasing a lot of classic of those old PC games on, and I don't mind a problem with that. And if they are basically just re-released old games and they don't do a lot of touching to it, and they leave them as they are, because there's with sometimes, as much as we want them all to be nicely updone and tuned up, sometimes you can get the Star Wars. You don't want like George Lucas going in and messing around too much with those games.
That's true. Though, in fairness, I haven't played it. The DuckTales remaster they did a couple years ago, if I remember correctly, they really didn't change much except the graphics in that one and gave it a major graphics overhaul. Maybe you know more about that. Yeah,
well, I mean, when that one came out backwards compatible a couple of months ago, I brought it. And also the Chaos of Illusion, I brought that in the Steam sale like a few weeks ago, the remastered version. And those were fantastic. I love them. That, when you say like remastered versions, that is now what I now put on if you want to do like a classic retro game, if they redo them like DuckTales, that was so good. And Chaos of Illusion, they were really, really, really good games. Lots of fun, and I love the fact that that was, when you think of a remaster, that was how they did it. They brought the songs up, they brought the music up, they basically built it from the scratch up, and that is a remastered of it. Or these are just re-releases of the classic game. So it's the only issue I have with those re-releases of the price. For what they are, it feels like this is slightly too expensive. Now, they aren't that expensive to begin with. I mean, I think they are, I'm just coming in and looking at the price here. I think they were $9.99 each, $8.99 with a discount, or you can get all three of them for $20. So they're not ecstatically expensive, but for what they are, I think they should probably be about half of that.
Yeah, I agree. We're talking again about games they've got to be pushing 20 years now.
Well, they're probably close to 22, 23 years old now. 93, 94 these came out.
Right. And if you're not going to make changes to it, then you can't charge very much for them. And some people will say $10 isn't very much, or 10 pounds or whatever, but they're fighting against people who are just going to play these on emulators for free. And you've got to, if you make it low enough, then you'll get sales from people who would just buy it to be like, whatever, I don't want to deal with an emulator. I just want to load it up on my GOG, whatever client they use. But 10 might be a little bit too much for that impulse purchase.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing of I do feel that this one, had it been less, I think it's a good, if you just want little retro fix, see what it's like, jump back in, relive some memories. it is a good pickup in terms of that way, but the price is a little bit is too high for what it is. Especially when, like you say, you have the emulators which are running on PC. And I'm going to be honest, I downloaded the Aladdin and I think it was the Lion King emulator because after I played it, I wanted to, because when I was doing a little bit of research, I was finding, they were talking about the difference, and I thought, well, when I played Aladdin on the Genesis version, it really did sort of show up how much the graphics look different and how smoother it ran on the emulator, and that is an issue, I think, when you're trying to charge $10 for a game for a slightly inferior version before you've even got out the gate. Even if it was, if they were $1 each, the Genesis version was a lot more superior automatically straight out the gate, and you've already got that behind.
Right, and in fairness, when they re-released the X-Wing titles, TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, all of those, they originally released the inferior versions of those, the original releases, and then they went back and gave us the CD-ROM and special edition re-releases of those, which are the superior versions. We just didn't get them right up front, and they were, in fairness, free upgrades if you'd already purchased it. But so maybe we'll see something like that with this, where they'll go back and they'll create like a closed circuit emulation or whatever, and we can get the Genesis or the SNES versions. But it might depend on sales. If not enough people buy it, then there's no point in doing it.
No. I mean, I'm very much in the mind of, I like the idea of them re-releasing these port games, or just bringing them up to the modern modern PC and stuff to play easily, so you can buy them officially. So if you want to go buy Aladdin, you can just pull it into your PC account and you can buy it and you can play it. And it's a couple of game, and you want to get your retro fix. That is, I think, great, and I think they should re-release everything that they can. They've just got to find that fine line between that price of, I mean, that $10 price, I'm sure, is going to be on discount for probably quite a while once after that initial rush goes. I mean, I want to see all the other retro games from that era released. I would love to see that. I'd love to see them all out there. Because they're fun, and they don't. I think it should be an easy way to do it. The trouble is like, at that price. I mean, out of reference again, I eBay. I do pick up retro cartridges as well to play it on retro console, and I've been looking at the price of these games anyway, and there's not a lot of difference in them. It's like, I could buy just a cartridge version of Aladdin or Lion King, maybe not in the box and all the rest of it, for only £4 for the actual proper cartridge. So therefore, you're not only are you fighting against the emulators, they're also fighting against retro collectors or retro gamers that want to buy the originals. And also, some of them, if you wanted to go out and buy all of them, you're going to be tight to get them all three of them for £20 or whichever price it is. But then you're then getting the full version and you've got a physical copy. And I think this is where I think the price is slightly out of line, and that's my, the port of the game. It was an old game. You can give it, it looks a bit ropey and stuff. All it's going to is a 20-odd euro game, but I think that price point is the one issue they've got to be really wary of in the future.
Right, and we'll see where they go with this. Obviously between this and Marvel Ultimate Alliance, they've got to be tracking what people are saying on Twitter and Facebook, and they've got to be seeing what the sales look like. And we'll see what the sales look like when they go on sales. Both of these games, they've come out early enough that, when the Christmas sales, the Black Friday sales start coming in, we can expect to see these games going on fairly decent discount. And, Disney will hopefully be taking a look at that and going, oh, maybe a lower price point would be a better idea right out the gate.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of these re-releases. I am quite happily. I know some people don't like re-releases and they only want new content. I don't mind the re-releases, especially if you missed it or you just want to relive it. But the price point is the biggest issue that can bring you onto. Marvel Alliance is a perfect example. Me not playing them before has been fun to play because I missed them the first. DuckTales Remastered, that there was on Xbox One backwards compatibility, and I went out and I brought it actually on the digital store. So it does help it does help bring in money from that point of view, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of thing. But they've also got to be aware of, if they do it too cheap but put it too pricey, it's going to burn people out as well.
Right, and then that's the balance, and hopefully they'll find it before before they release some stuff I really, really, really want.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we've been saying this before. I think because of like the way that the Xbox and the PC and PlayStation stuff, they're all moving onto this like PC infrastructure, where it seems like PC seems to be the way they want to. In some ways, I feel like they get these games out and sort of the PC, they know that these are going to be around for 10, 15, 20 years maybe, because they're all going to be working on that same infrastructure for a long time.
Yeah. There's nothing else to add on to it.
Yeah, no, it definitely feels like that's going to be where. I mean, on one hand, now I sort of sit there and I look at all these releases and go, I wish they'd kind of, it's that thing of, if they could bring these to bring consoles, it would be great to see, Disney maybe take a little bit more, like, okay, we're re-releasing, but we're releasing them across all the platforms, which would be kind of cool. But I think that would require a lot more work, and then obviously that would be a lot more expensive. So that $10-15 would then be sliding in because they've had to do a little bit more work. But there, and I can't help but feel like, with the way the Xbox is going, how long is it going to be before they can just play a normal game anyway?
Yeah, I mean, Microsoft has been wanting to do platform unity across Windows 10 or, moving forward, Windows 11, whatever comes out next, and the Xbox for a while. And there's been pushback against it, but that's only going to hold out for so long.
Yeah. So you eventually get an Xbox One and you just press the start button at the beginning. That's basically going to be the way it goes. But I think this again, we'll just kind of slightly touched on some of the news here with the DLC for Marvel Alliance, Ultimate Alliance, which obviously got its remastered. We have had confirmation that the DLC for the first game will be coming and will be free. The DLC for the second game was already out, and the PC fixes seem to have come in and sort of fixed all that. And there definitely seemed to be that kind of initial reaction, I think, from Marvel games of going, right, there's a major problem. We do not like this egg on our face. Get this fixed pronto. Get this sorted. What have you, this feels like tapped in at this point and kind of pushed the button.
Yeah, I think now that with Steam, the PC platform release, they've got the refund system in place. If you play a game less than 2 hours, you've owned it for less than 2 weeks. Players can refund it, and I think that this happened with Batman last year, and now with Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Disney and Marvel have to be looking at this and going, "We screwed up. There's a lot of bad publicity. Let's make this a priority." Because I don't think that we would have gotten fixes very quickly if people hadn't complained as much as they were.
It definitely, I mean, it's like I think not having it and having the DLC in the first re-release was an issue. And it, if Activision were thinking, maybe we can charge again for this, they hadn't, again, it was a bit of and Activision don't have a great history for doing their re-releases of being a bit of cash. But they did it with Deadpool. That was the thing. Last year's Deadpool, they chucked in all the DLC when they re-released that one. And maybe it was literally just I hate to say it, but maybe it's an oversight of them just trying to rush it out, and they hadn't really given a lot of thought. Oh, we'll do it later, and then realized the backlash that was going to come in.
Well, they clearly didn't give too much thought to Marvel Ultimate Alliance in the first place either. It's like, yeah, guys, we've got this game. You might remember it. We're gonna remaster it and relaunch it. Oh yeah, by the way, it's next Tuesday.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Yeah. There's some guy in the office going, "Sir, yeah, we haven't ran it on the PC yet."
Whatever. PC players roll over. Sorry, go ahead.
It's strange how this PC stuff just keep. It's like all these ports for the console. It's like they do some serious testing on consoles, or they have one PC in the office. Well, it works on that. It's going to work on everything. It's just all you keep hearing is PC issues.
I mean, yeah, and Activision's got a lot more experience with the consoles, and if you load it up on an Xbox, then it will work on every Xbox. But yeah, PC, of course, everyone's got a different PC. I've got two two PCs here. I've got one which is my work laptop and one which is my desktop, and they run two very different sets of programs. And there are things that will run fine on my desktop that won't run at all on my laptop. So
yeah. I mean, this is the thing. I've been playing. I mean, I've been playing Marvel Alliance on the first one. You know, most of the week up until the re-releases of those retro games came out, because that kind of was an unexpected release. You know, and I'm going to be honest, I have not been having any issues on my PlayStation version. So, you know, if I wasn't aware of the PC version, I brought it, I wouldn't be there going, oh, you know, it is a good thing. I've not been having any issues on my PlayStation. You know, that port of it seems good. I'm looking forward. It's that kind of thing of like, I'm playing through. So I've got, you know, I think I was up to like Asgard last night, and there was this great cutscene of Loki coming in with all these. And they go, why don't you do all these cutscenes between each level, and we get these really cheap versions in between? It's like, we've only got so much budget for the big cinema version, and then we're going to do a cheap one. So I'm looking forward to the second game to kind of, I think, have a bit slightly better version of it.
Right, yeah. The second version, or the second edition of the game, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, had a better production quality, and the story was pretty good too. I like that it's got a branching story. You'll actually have to make a decision early on, and you'll lose access to certain characters for a while. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what you think, especially since I believe those games were like 3 years apart originally.
Yeah. Yeah, but also I think this has been a good way of like Marvel as well. You know, testing the waters, getting a new generation ready for a third game. I think, you know, they've been asked for it. You know, I'm just waiting now for them to re-release Marvel versus Capcom, because I was looking at that in the game store the other week, going, I think that would be quite cool. Yeah, I feel like they're in this point now where they're looking at like relicensing and doing. And maybe it's like all these Disney re-releases. They got caught basically with not having a huge plan, and now it's like, right, we need to get some games out just to kind of fill in the void a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think you know, they're scrambling. They canceled Infinity, which we've obviously talked about, and they need to keep their name in the marketplace. And if they've got nothing officially planned, it could be years before we see something with the official Disney seal on it, other than say Battlefront 2 or one of those Star Wars games.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like Star Wars kind of they think Marvel. I mean, we've got this Telltale game coming from Marvel that's not really much is known about that one. That one's coming out at some point. And we've also got Spider-Man. So we know there's a few games in development, and I think the way they're talking, they've got lots of plans for more content. I mean, I've never played a Telltale game. I know the Batman one's out now. I'm kind of in that mode now, thinking, right, I'm just going to wait for this Marvel game and play it for the very first time doing that and see what it's all about.
I've actually played a couple of the Telltale games. I played Fables and Jurassic Park and the Game of Thrones one. I had to think about it for a second. And I've come to the determination for myself that I don't actually enjoy playing them quite as much. I prefer watching them. They're more of like a cinematic TV style thing. So even though I do want to support the developers for them, because they do put a lot of work into them and they're very good experiences, I actually normally end up watching other people play them on Twitch, just because I like to sit back and enjoy what's going on rather than having to do the quick time events that are throughout the entire game.
Yeah, is it kind of like the like that kind of presses button to do this and then presses button to do that? Like I said, I've never played them.
It pretty much is. You'll see an on-screen button prompt. It'll be like the B button, and it will either be flashing, like you have to push it real fast, or you have to push it to dodge, or move your controller to the left, or the thumbstick to the left to dodge to the left or to the right. And I mean, those are the gameplay parts of it, and that's the part I don't enjoy. But you also have to make choices. Like you're presented with a character, and the character wants you to do this, and another character wants you to do that, and you can only do one of the things.
Yeah.
And then the game will remember which choice you make.
Yeah.
And it will actually change the story. Like,
all right.
You don't help character B, and character B dies or gets captured or doesn't like you anymore, so they won't help anymor, and they're out for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think I always just remember Dragon's I think with Dragon's Lair, the classic kind of, I'm sitting there in the arcade playing that one and going, and I remember picking up this Japanese game on my Mega CD, way back in like when Rumbelows went out of business, and it's like press left, go right, and it was just a play along movie. And I always revert back to that and going, I hated those things.
Yeah, that's pretty much what you should expect from Telltale. It's normally more forgiving than those old games were, but not much.
No, that's kind of cool. But it's going to see how well they go along. Let's have a look a bit more at the news. Lego Star Wars DLC was put out. These were the Empire Strikes Back and the Jabba the Palace's character packs. They were put out onto all the different platforms. If you had the season pass included, these were originally like pre-order exclusives that are now out everywhere. They do that, quite a few times with these pre-order exclusives. They eventually come out. Played them. Some of the characters are fun. There were some fun ones in there. I'll just give you an idea of who some of the characters are. Like I said, you got the Jabba, you got Jabba the Hutt, Bib Fortuna, Melekai, you got a Gamorrean guard. You've also got Boosk, Dancer Ola, and Princess Leia in a prisoner costume. And then in the Empire Strikes Back one, you have got here we got Boosk, we got Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia. You got Lobot and Ugnaught and Boba Fett in his original concept art. This is kind of fun. You kind of got the classic characters from the original trilogy. This is their way of kind of shoehorning them in a little bit to keep the Star Wars fans happy. Again, fine. These are nice little add-on characters. They don't. I think this is the thing. I think after Marvel Avengers, I got spoiled with all those levels that they released. I think that's what I'm missing so far.
Right. I'm used to the character packs actually normally having maybe not significant levels, but small ones added on to them. That's from like back Lego Batman 3. I think each character pack had at least like a 30-minute leg. Probably closer to 15 actually. But something more than just the characters showing up, which I was expecting that too from Force Awakens, and it looks like they've separated them out into two different pack types.
Well, they did do that with Avengers. I mean, we know we've got there's 3 level packs or 3 levels coming for Lego Star Wars Force Awakens. But there was a lot of character packs that were just character packs. Maybe, just getting some of them out the date, because I think it seems to be with these Lego games is they tend to release them, they wait a period, and then they weekly release all the packs in a run. They did that with Marvel. They just released that came with it. But like I said, I like levels. I like having the gameplay to come with the pack. So yeah, I wholly agree. It's that kind of, that's the kind I liked it. I loved it when getting back in and you had like the Agents of Shield level, or then you had the Ant-Man level. That was so cool to do that, and I love that about Lego. That was one of the things I loved about Lego Avengers was that season pass, because you had all this constant content coming for about 6-8 weeks.
Right. The one thing about the character packs that I do like is if you are maybe a slower gamer, like you prefer to take things slow and go through each level one at a time. If you haven't unlocked a whole bunch of characters in the game, then sometimes these DLC packs will give you access to abilities that you haven't unlocked yet, so you can go back and free play the levels. I think that happened in Lego Avengers, where I didn't have access to like a plasma ability or something like that, and then one of the DLC characters had it, and I was like, "Oh, good!" And it actually helped me unlock the character that I needed to get that ability, even though I now have that ability. So,
yeah. See, I think with Lego games, I'm very much that kind of thing. I like to go through and do the story. I like to jump to missions and stories in the free play, but I've never had that desire to unlock every character and every brick and every red brick. So I don't. I don't think I've ever actually gone back and played through the story again to try and unlock every. I don't know. It just doesn't. There's usually someone else out.
Right. Normally, I'll play through the story mode, and then I'll go back and do the free play. But I'm not going back to unlock everything. I just want to go back through the free play and use characters that I didn't have previously. It's fun to go through, the original Star Wars levels, the Death Star, the second Death Star with Darth Maul and Jango Fett and the young Obi-Wan Kenobi. But yeah, I'm like you. I'm not going to sit there and go, I need
Yeah.
to get every red brick. I need to get every gold brick. I need to unlock minor character number 25, who's I'm never
Yeah.
going to use, you know?
No. It's kind of, as like I said, the last couple of weeks, I suddenly had like 5 games released, and I was not expecting to have this month. I, I picked up Lego Dimensions to play, and I was going to do Lego Dimensions and Kingdom Hearts 3 months because I wasn't expecting anything new out. And since then, I've got 2 brand new console games, and then I've been playing these retro games this week. So yeah, it's been nice to have some content to play that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Just real fast. I was expecting to have August here kind of open because there's a little game coming out on Tuesday called No Man's Sky. It's not a Disney game,
No.
but it's one of the major releases of the year, and I'm a huge flight sim fan. I was talking about X-Wing earlier, and No Man's Sky, I was expecting to be just like, this is the game I'm playing this month, and now I'm looking, oh, there's other stuff.
Yeah, I must. It's that kind of thing of, I think for me at the minute, I feel like I've got this huge back catalogue of games that I kind of want to feel like I want to play through. The Kingdom Hearts ones are just this thing in my. I've got the 2 remix versions that I know I just want to try and get through, and I haven't played them for a couple of weeks, and they're huge, epic titles. We're not talking 5 to 10 hour sort of story modes. These are huge. So yeah, it's this kind of weird thing of like I've been really enjoying playing through the first game, because there again, this is the thing of some of these games. Sometimes when like Marvel Alliance, if a big title came out opposite it, especially when I was maybe not quite playing Disney games because I was in university or something like that, and I'd kind of you just started work and suddenly you start seeing other games coming out, and now it's great. Go back and play them, but also like you said, out it's kind of like, oh, that looks quite fun.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see what else we had on our list of news. Disney Mix is a new app that's got released by Disney. It's kind of, I don't know if it's got games in. Unfortunately, it's blocked from the UK and I think a lot of the different countries and stuff. Is out on Google and iOS. Unfortunately, I'm going to be honest, it was not like. Sometimes when I get locked out of an app, I will use one of my other iTunes accounts and I will log in and download it. Kingdom Hearts, or log in and get a load of the new game. This one was just like, no, it's just like it didn't jump at me. It is a messaging app with GIFs. You can text stickers, you can use avatars, you can add Disney accounts. They've used the Club Penguin team to invest. You can send hilarious messages. Apparently, you can play games like Spike's Elsa's Winter Waltz and Cards of Doom right inside your chat screen, and you can create an avatar. Maybe I should try and download it this week and play it a little bit. But yeah, I don't know who this is aimed at. It's not me.
Well, no, I don't think either of us are the target audience on this. I think they're looking at, they're looking at 10 or 11 or 12-year-olds who, they're living on their phones and they're chatting with their friends all day long. And, if this had happened a couple of years ago, I think it would be pretty popular. But, text messaging, regular carrier text messaging has pretty much all these features already built in. You can send GIFs, you can send animated videos, you can do the emojis or whatever. So I'm with you. I'm not really sure what they're planning here.
So right. Okay. So I am now back in the room. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of editing at this point. And I'm going to have to get James back in. That one kind of kicked us out really bad. I don't know what went on there. Right. So a little bit of annoyance there. Right. Let's just turn that one off. Right. Okay. So I'm going to have to do a little bit of editing on this live show, which unfortunately is what happens sometimes. And he's back in the room. There we go.
Yes. Yeah, yes. I'm back. I hope you're going to edit that video because there's about 4 or 5 minutes of me just staring at the screen going, I don't know if I'm live by myself.
Yeah, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of editing on this one before we go live on that one. But yes, all right. Okay, so let's hopefully my internet connection will, I don't know what happened then. I Yeah, no idea. My phone, my PC was going in and out constantly. So there we go. So that was Disney Mix. So we're going to move on from that one there and move on to the next subject. So Galaxy and Turmoil was a PC game which was set to be re-released on Steam, or sort of not re-released, was set to be released on Steam. It was based on the Battlefront 3 game that never came out, and fans picked it up and they were working on it, and they were making a lot of nice noise about how they were going to release this game on Steam and Valve, and everything was going to go good. And then they got hit with a cease and desist order by Lucasfilm, and they were told, well, we would like to work with you, but unfortunately EA are the bad guys here. They won't let you do it. So did you hear about this one?
Yeah, I heard about it when they announced it, and it got greenlit on Steam, and they were going to start pushing it out. And I remember at the time being like, there's no way this is going through. There's no way Disney lawyers or Star Wars lawyers, LucasArts, can let this go through. And it was just counting down the days until it happened. It actually took longer than I expected. I was expecting a cease and desist within a week of it happening. And I don't know, it's been close to a month now, maybe longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, to be honest, it feels to me like they made way too much noise way too quickly. If they wanted to do this, they needed to basically, I think, essentially shut up, get it out, and then have to cease and desist. That was the only way that this was going to work. The minute they started making noise, and also, I mean, putting all that effort into a game that you knew it was going to happen. You you can't go and make a Star Wars game and release it. That's not how the system works. You can't.
And I think people are going to paint Disney and Lucasfilms as bad guys here, and to a certain degree, of course, they are. They're shutting down the progress on this. But I think people also need to remember that Star Wars has to defend its license. If they don't defend it, then if there's a more serious threat down the road, then this could be used as precedent against it if they let it go through. And so, tip to anybody who wants to release a Star Wars game like this, or even a conversion, like I don't know if people do that anymore, but conversion mods for this game, don't announce it until you release it. Like you were saying, Roger, just release it, get it out there. You'll get a cease and desist. You'll have to take it down, but once the internet has hold of it, it's never truly gone.
Yeah. It's just this kind of thing. It's like like when you walk through and you find like some really dodgy like toy stores, and you find like Arachnid Man and and like Luke Darkstalker or something. Some really dodgy like Chinese toys that are like as rip off as they possibly can get. I remember the Disney Infinity Pack that had a minion in it. These kind of sort of really bad sets. That is what would happen to video games if Disney did not do it. I mean, you only have to look on the App Store and you will find some really shoddy looking like cash-in games by, Elsa's Makeup kind of, there's some really bad ones on there.
Well, to pass on a current trend, of course, Pokemon Go. If you look at the Windows mobile app, like all three of you with a Windows phone, there's a Pokemon Go Ninja app.
Yeah.
But it doesn't even have Pokemon in it. It's literally someone like rescreened an Infinite Ninja Runner and slapped the name Pokemon on it. Didn't even put Pokeballs or anything in it, but it's there and it's available.
Yeah, this is. I mean, but then this is where, like, I think, like, an app store and stuff like that. People can get their games up on it a lot quicker than they can do, mate. And I think PC kind of has that same. Consoles, you don't have that issue on it. But yeah, so definitely, I think with the app store and stuff, you only have to look on there, and you will find lots and lots of dodgy sort of trying to cash in on these things. Even like you say, like every single brand has it. I don't know if like the big companies do go through and sort of shut them down eventually, but in which time it takes they get a few months or whatever it is before that all happens. But I do feel with this Galaxy and Turmoil game, it could have been a great game, probably is a great game, and then apparently they're now working on a new project which will kind of basically, and then on one hand, if they wanted to launch this team and say, look, okay, we're going to be we want to make our own team and we will get into the business and we want to make a lot of noise, they did it. But then, of course, they're always going to be the team. Well, you guys launched this and just tried to copy this. It's a hard one to know what this is going to do.
See, I think if they had come out and said, Galaxy in Turmoil, or whatever they decided to call it, is inspired by the original Battlefront or Battlefront 2. You know, we're basing it on the big team battles. You'll have heroes. They won't be Luke Skywalker, but hey, maybe there'll be a guy with like a laser sword on both sides, and then you'll have some guys with some sniper rifles and stuff like that. I think they would have been fine. It's the second they went out and said this is Battlefront 3 that they got in trouble.
But also, I mean, they literally had the ships, and they really didn't look like they made any, you know, putting in Darth Vader. You know, the images that were putting out were looking way too much like it. It wasn't just like, oh, here's a Walker. You know, it's like, well, make some differences to it. Make it so, you know, make it look a little bit different. But of course, they haven't got the budget, and it was just as a thing of like, you would have either released it and then deal with the issues afterwards. But yeah, don't make a load of public noise about it before you launch something like this. You know, I'm making a copy of this. I'm making Disney Infinity, but I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be making Infinity, and I'm going to be having, you know, all these different characters in. Well, yeah, I'm going to get slapped with a cease and desist before, you know, you've even got anything at the date. You don't do it. Just doesn't work.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because I think there was a lot of potential for this, and I hope that, like you said, the team will continue working on other games and that this will get them publicity to make those games successfully. Yeah. But everyone who was watching this had to have been thinking they're going to get slapped. They're going to get a little slap on the wrist, and it's going to have to stop. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it definitely sort of seems to be that thing. As far as the news goes, that's kind of all the bits and pieces done. It's hard to know, like, it's quite often now it feels like it's sort of every Monday we sit here and we do all the discussion about what's coming up, and usually most of the stuff we've talked about we don't know what's coming up in the week ahead. I mean, it's like as far as like the release schedule officially goes, we know we have got Kingdom Hearts in December 2.8, and we know we've got Disney Magical World 2 in the US on 3DS in I think it's October, but officially other than that, we don't really know of any new titles. We know we've got the Death Star DLC coming for Star Wars Battlefront in September, and we know we've got the Rogue One pack coming in December. So we know we've got a few kind of big keystone things. We still got 3 level packs for Star Wars Force Awakens, but generally at the minute everything's kind of sort of it. You know, we're going into this holiday season. You know, we're not far off of it. Can't believe how many stories I've heard to write about Christmas this last couple of weeks, but it kind of it's we never quite know what's going to be coming, because, you know, like sometimes you just get like Ultimate Alliance jump out of nowhere, or a re-release like Jungle Book, and the same thing with the Disney apps is, you know, we've got Pete's Dragon coming out this coming week. I'm wondering if we're going to get a Pete's Dragon Crossy Roads and a Pete's Dragon mobile game. It wouldn't surprise me if that will drop the next week or two.
Either that, or maybe we see them added to, say, Disney Emoji or Sum or something like that. Yeah. Well, that's true though. I believe we're expecting Marvel Sum to be coming out of Japan in the near future. We don't know when, but soon-ish.
It's a fun game, that one. It should that one should be coming out soon. I don't know. We're just, you know, obviously we're going to get like little. I suspect we'll see a lot of Doctor Strange tie-ins to all the Marvel games around, and we also have the new Woman of Power Pinball that's going to be coming in the fall as well. So there is still lots of content coming. It still feels like I'm sort of sitting there going, well, okay, so we pretty much got new game content coming every month for the next for at least through till December. But beyond that, you know, we know about Spider-Man and Kingdom Hearts 3 and a load of Star Wars games. It definitely feels like we're right at this thing, and like we've been keep saying, Disney Infinity would have been this kind of constant force, and now that's been taken away. I don't know what's going to be happening. But I thought just before, you know, sort of as a bit of a feature, this one, there's been a lot, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it last week, was all these rumors of the Nintendo NX about being a hybrid console between a portable and a PC version, or a portable and a home console version. So first off, you know, part of me actually thinks this is a good idea. And also can't help but feel like Disney have done quite a lot of support for the DS over the years. More so than maybe the Nintendo Wii or the Wii U. And I can't help but think, like, if this goes down this line, that I think we might see a lot more titles come to the Nintendo console from the Disney side of things, because it seems to sort of hit their core audience. I don't know what you thought initially of this NX for, but how that might tie in better with like Disney.
Well, from what I understand, and the rumors are, just rumors at this point, the NX is mostly a mobile platform with, detachable controllers. Is that kind of your understanding too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you can plug into the telly.
Yeah, and you can plug it in, but also it's supposed to have the same basic graphical powerhouse as the Xbox One and the PS4, roughly in the same range. So I expect we'll see a lot of those games, and obviously Disney is going to want to, take advantage of that. But the one advantage the Wii U had was that tablet controller. Everyone was like, I can play my console games from another room. My kid can be watching, their favorite Disney movie over on the big screen, and I can be playing Mario Kart right here wherever I want. And it sounds like that's what the NX is going to bring to the table, is being able to do that all the time. And I think Disney's going to want to get in on that. I think that we're going to see maybe not like full releases, or they'll any full release will just get put on all three, but they might make some DS style games like you were talking about. Not Magic Kingdoms 2.
Yeah, Magic World 2.
Magic World 2. And we could see that on the NX as an upscale from the 3DS version. Hopefully a significant upscale, but
I mean, it's like even this year. I mean, we had Disney Art Academy, which I still haven't got around to playing yet. And leaving that for my holiday at this point. Also, you've got so Disney have released 2 sort of DS exclusive games this year. There's also been obviously Lego Force Awakens, Lego Avengers, and I can't help but feel like if Nintendo merge everything into one thing, I'll be more inclined to kind of get. We've seen lots of different. We had like a Phileas and Ferb game released on the Vita last year, just randomly kind of thing, and there are game developers out there that will want to make handheld versions. Maybe if we start seeing, like games that maybe would have been on mobile devices, will they bring them over? I could easily see some of like big hit like Zum Zum could be massive if it was released, but there again, the free-to-play model might ruin that game set because Nintendo will want to sell it. Will people want to pay would a Zum Zum mobile DS game sell if it was $20 but completely unlocked? Would they want to be buying it, or would they just get that so that we'll just do a completely different game?
I think what we're seeing from the mobile market, and which would probably translate to the NX, is that there are 2 different kind of buyers. There are the buyers who will go to free to play and they'll buy the incremental transactions, and then there are other players who will just flat out buy a game just to have everything unlocked, and they'll pay that flat price up front and then not worry about anything. So I think that they're not really the same market.
No. And
I think Nintendo knows that, Disney knows that. So we could definitely see a situation where they're like, all right, you want to play Disney, the Sim, and you don't want to go through all the pain of unlocking everything. Here is a $20 fee. You get something. You still have to level them up, but you have access to them. And I could see them doing that, especially if the NX has touchscreen capability, which I don't recall seeing whether or not it's supposed to.
It's definitely, I feel like going into the NX, I definitely feel like I'm, I sort of, hearing all these rumors, and I can't help but feel like this actually is not necessarily a bad idea for them to do something completely coming out with a third console that is identical to an Xbox One and a PS4, but just plays Nintendo games. Isn't going to excite anyone. That's just the same that everybody else is doing. I'd like, the 3DS has been a huge hit. And from the Disney side of it, there has been a constant stream of individual games that seem to work on it. And I can't help but feel like, obviously with the eShop and stuff like that, that if this NX goes down the right line, there is an entirely different field of games that could come, not necessarily third party, just ports across all 3 platforms. But I still think I have this feeling that there could be more content comes there if they go. I don't know, just how it feels. It feels like there's an opportunity at this point to have some maybe different games.
I think it's really going to depend on how Nintendo pitches it, and also price point, what kind of prices they want for the console, and then what they're going to set the baseline for the games themselves. Especially since, according to rumors, they're going back to the cartridge style game,
Yeah.
Which the 3DSs are using, and obviously they use for all the way through the N64. But those are traditionally more expensive than disc-based media, so we'll have to see what goes on there.
It does, like, Nintendo putting all their eggs into one basket and promoting one solid console that does everything would be good, because essentially, they gave up on the promoting the Wii U and just focused on the DS. And I think, like, if there is one SKU, one product, and also, I remember was listening to a podcast the other day, and they're talking, if you were to take like the Nintendo schedule, if you take away all the Nintendo DS stuff, there wasn't a lot for the Wii U, but when you put them together, there was actually constant new content coming, and the NX could do that. And I have this, I don't know, to me, it feels like I'm looking at this from the Disney point of view and going from the website and thinking, I still think that there could be some unique product coming in. Whether or not they put them to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox, if it's just a playable game, they'll want to do that as well, especially if it's just a quick tie-in. If they price it right, it could work. But with the support that they've done for the DS and the Game Boy and stuff over the years, and even the Vita, Disney aren't afraid of doing handheld ports or handheld versions.
Right, and actually, in a lot of cases, the handheld versions end up being pretty high quality, or even better. And one thing I've liked them doing in the past with these handheld ports is they often do a slightly different story than the ones that come out on the consoles, and you can end up seeing like side stories and stuff like that, or they do what they did with like Infinity for 3DS, which was absolutely awful. But
I think as well is it's kind of as well if the NX is based purely at the kids, or was primarily aimed at children, that's their core market. Disney that's their audience too most of the time, especially like Disney Channel game content and stuff. So it does kind of feel like that's like a natural combination that will work well together. I don't know, the latest Disney Channel TV show game will probably sell better on a Nintendo console than it would do on an Xbox One.
Yeah, probably. Because, the Xbox skews a little bit more, well, I don't want to use the word mature because there's a lot of immaturity on Xbox One. But, towards an older demographic, or people who like to think they're older anyway, whereas the Nintendo is even with their current lineup of games, they always kind of have that we're for kids vibe, even though, you've got Smash Bros. And Mario Kart, which are dominated by the adult market. So
yeah, I mean, I think as well as, I mean, it's just in general, I mean, I'm looking at this and thinking, obviously it's another console, and if there's no exclusive like Disney content from it, from my point of view, it's not so good from that point. But then I was sitting there the other day thinking, well, it would be kind of cool if like I could literally be playing my game and say like this week Ultimate Alliance was out, and I'm playing it on my console at home, and like, I'm going to my in-laws, I'm going on holiday, or I'm going to work and I've got my lunch break. Like, I could just take it with me and actually just continue playing where I was. It's like, it's sort of something like, it sounds like a really good idea. It's just like, it just feels like this could really this could be great. This could be exactly what I would love to have. Take it, if I could spend an hour or two at my mother-in-law's every week, or if I was, sat at home in the evening and I could just flick up and play it while we're watching TV. Part of this is like, it might not be as powerful as an Xbox One, or it might not be quite down that line, but if I was playing Ultimate Alliance or the Jungle Book or something like that this week, that would have been quite cool to have been able to, especially as well, get some time in away, not necessarily from like recording, doing all the bits and pieces, but just sit there and playing when you've got a little bit more free time. Doesn't necessarily seem like a bad idea.
Yeah, and if you're, say, a PC gamer or something like that, you could have this little thing on hand while you're sitting in a loading screen, or your computer connection is crashing or something like that, and you can play it for like 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And or you could even, depending on the leniency of your work, bring it into work, and on your lunch break or whatever, you could have it right there, and then take it home with you, and you're all set.
Yeah, it definitely, I'm going to be honest, I think that's the thing that's starting to appeal to me a little bit, because While like especially on some of the big games, it'd be nicer to be able to kind of, especially if they're a long game, because I think this is going to be the thing with the NX. I think you're going to have some big titles like Zelda, but then you could have a small little game like Art Academy come out on it. I don't know. It just definitely feels like there's a scope from Disney's that I think offers a unique situation from the PlayStation 4 and the PC that fits its target audience, and I can't help but feel like there is a scope there that could be done differently.
Absolutely, and I think probably not as a result of the NX, but maybe something that they're thinking about is the NX could be a very good home for these retro games that they've been releasing, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, and then all the way going back to Aladdin and Lion King and whatnot. And these could be that kind of game, depending on exactly how portable it is. You give it to your kid when you're on a long car trip, and they can go and feel terrible about themselves because they can't get past the bloody giraffe level in Lion King. So.
I think it's this kind of I think when this stuff came out, a lot of like hardcore Nintendo fans, they want that Super Nintendo feel, that home console, and not only that, they want it to be so big that it was going to outsmash the Scorpio and the PlayStation Neo, and it was going to be the biggest, baddest console on the planet, and it was finally going to take back Nintendo to the peaks of what it was. It's like, that's not Nintendo. That's not what they do.
No. This is another one of those situations where we're talking about like the cease and desist letter. It's like, guys, this is Nintendo. They have very explicitly stated multiple times, we're not here to make the super powerful do everything system. We're here to do the system that plays our games, and we'll let other people put games on it as well. But you're going to come to us to play Zelda and Mario Kart and Smash Brothers, and we're going to do it in a way that we think will make that experience the best experience it can be. Whether or not that's true is, a different matter entirely. But, Nintendo plays their own games. They play their own system, and it's never going to be the 4K resolution, most beautiful game of all time system.
No.
And that's just not their game plan.
No. It definitely, I mean, it's like, I'm sort of thinking back over the last few years, like the Wii U Disney never really fully went in on it. I mean, obviously you had the Disney Infinity game on it. I think they had the Just Dance Disney game, but there wasn't really but then so little support was for it. The Marvel games weren't brought to it. The Star Wars games weren't, there was generally not a lot of love for it, but the DS was still getting a lot of attention. And that's been kind of the general problem with the Wii U, is it just wasn't getting any attention from anybody else. But this is a different platform. If they get a big enough install base into it, it just, I don't know, sitting here now, it just feels like this is a unique situation for the Disney licensing. And it's often is where now we're back to licensing again. If a company goes to them and say, well, we can make a mobile NX game featuring, I don't know, Monsters University, Disney are more likely now at this point to say yes, whereas when maybe during the Disney Infinity era, they were less than likely to do that.
Right. I think I just lost my mic there for a second. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. And I lost my train of thought as well. But yeah, it's gone. No, actually, what I was thinking is, what I was watching the guys on the Res TV network play Disneyland Connect earlier this week.
Yeah.
Remember, for the 360, and I was thinking that the NX, or whatever the NX ends up being, this could actually be the kind of game that we could see from Disney, maybe like a reality experience kind of thing, because I'd love them to do a sequel to that, and the NX might be the kind of system for it. So
it definitely feels like, going into the next few years, we've got some different platforms going here. We know we've kind of got the big PC, Xbox and PlayStation network, which I think are still their core push for that. You then have the mobile devices, you're then going to have the VR section, and then you're going to have the NX. And the NX is kind of, it could kind of go across many of the different platforms, the mobile and the PC versions, but it might have its own unique, if there's a big enough install base and there's money to be made, they could do something a bit different with it. But we're definitely, I think a lot of people want this, one game fits all, and they've proven with Infinity it did not work. It does not work. You have to make the game for the right platform, and if there's not enough people on the platform, is an issue, but make the right game for the right platform. Otherwise, it just doesn't. We can't just port everything across.
Right. And I hope that the NX kind of does its own thing, and I hope that Disney, or well, actually all developers really take advantage of that and do unique games on the NX if there's, you know, a viable financial strategy to do that. So,
but then at the same time, if, for example, you know, Lego, I don't know, say Lego Rogue One can run on an NX and they can cross-platform it to everything, then that's good as well. You know, that's, you know, they can make advantage of it, because I'm sure any Lego games will be on it. Obviously, like Lego Dimensions is going to be maybe a slightly odd one. They might have to they might relaunch it or do something to it to kind of catch up with it. But you know, we're definitely in the early stages. Hopefully next month we will actually officially know what the NX is. We know it's coming in March, so it's definitely much in the rumors on it, and I'm sure we'll get a little bit more. But also I was thinking this is actually quite a good moment, because the NX is still in its kind of pre-launch. People are getting their cards and, you know, getting their houses in order to do what they're doing. The Disney licenses basically all came up right at that point when they needed to for the NX. So I think the NX was in a better position to get new game content going now, because it's all fresh and ready to roll.
Yeah, and you know, obviously everything we're talking about is speculation anyway. So hopefully they're talking to developers. Hopefully they're making it easy for developers like Disney to have games ready, because that, I think, was a big problem with the Wii and the Wii U, was it wasn't easy to take your Xbox One or your Xbox 360 data and turn it into a Wii U game. So if they make it easy to port these games, then people will make NX ports even if the NX doesn't get a huge install base, because it's easy to do. It's extra revenue even if it's a small amount of it. But if it's a lot of work, then they're not going to do it. So
it's just the kind of thing. I mean, we've been talking about this like PC structure that all the cons. In some ways, Nintendo might need to do a little bit of that themselves, of trying to make sure so that they can do that to get more games on their platform. If they, you know, to make third party interesting, you know, that's the thing. They all want to get their games out on as many different platforms as possible to make some more money. And if they make it way too hard, they don't bother.
I mean, that was a problem the PlayStation 3 had, I think, back in the day, was that it was extremely difficult for developers to create games for the PS3, and the 360 was much easier, and the 360 dominated that generation. Now, I don't know how it is with the current generation, but it looks like the PS4 might have reversed the script on that one, and it's a little bit easier for them to work with.
But also, I think the PS4 was based on the PC structure, so therefore that seems to be like the one to do, and then it will just port across to, and then, you know, nothing will work on the PC. It's definitely kind of, it should be fun. I'm definitely looking forward to what's coming out. Definitely feels like we're right at that kind of, you know, new consoles, new VR, everything's coming in, but also with Disney Infinity dropping, Marvel are constantly looking for new licensing agreements. Star Wars have got everything in line. Then it just feels like there's a lot coming up, but there's going to be a lot of meetings going on this year, kind of working stuff out. And things are a little bit, maybe a lot further away than we want them to be.
Yeah, and I think really what we're going to see, or what I hope we see, is in the near future, Nintendo officially telling us what makes the NX different from everything, and that's really going to what's going to push the next several months, because both Microsoft and Sony have already kind of telegraphed to us that for them, at least the next probably year and a half, is all about VR, pushing VR and all that. And if NX can give us a unique gaming experience, they could carve something out, because not everyone's going to want to do VR. Especially not at a $400 price point on top of buying a console.
Yeah, honestly, I've got a place booked at EGX next month to actually try PlayStation out or play the VR out, and I'm like, right, okay, I'm just like, want to try it, see what it's like. But it could be an interesting thing, and I definitely, like we've said before, you know, Disney have been doing a lot of VR testing and doing some different motions and doing some different games. You know, there's been a few Star Wars stuff. There's been different content. I definitely think they are looking at like VR, but again, it feels like we're a long way off any kind of major titles from anything like that, from any major con- any major developer.
I mean, VR still feels like a test demo at this point. There's a lot of very cool stuff. I have actually tried out the PlayStation VR. They had it at a Best Buy near me, and I played Eve Valkyrie or whatever, the space flight sim for that, and that was awesome. That was an amazing experience, but it's not a $400 experience.
No.
And it'll be a couple years before VR gets that, like, you have to have this game, situation. So
no, it should be cool. But I definitely, like I said, I've still got that little hope of me going, give us that Moana video game like this Christmas, this November. I'm like, please, you did all the work. Just a little port.
Just make a little standalone Disney Infinity. I know that has to be super easy, right? I'm hoping the sarcasm is coming across in the audio.
They just have to unplug the base. That's all.
Right. Yeah, that's all you got to do. But if they could, because Moana, or the stuff we haven't seen, whatever they had planned for Rogue One, expand it into its own game. I hope they do. They won't, but I hope they do. So
no, I mean, it's like you said. I mean, in some ways, it's like whoever was working on it, it would have been cool to say, right, okay, you've got the license, get this out and make some money for us. But I can't help but feel like next year's console games are going to be very, very slim for Disney. It does feel like, unless they are really, because games take time. Games take time to develop, and I don't know if they basically just hit the reset button. And I think if it wasn't for Kingdom Hearts, there just wouldn't be anything coming. And I think that's why we might see a lot of ports and re-releases of stuff, just to kind of fill the gap in a bit.
I agree 100%. Marvel Ultimate Alliance and these Disney games that we had last week on GOG, they're testing the water, and Disney is going to be saying, what else do we have? What other games can we throw on here? And I hope they start moving up through, like, say, the PlayStation 2 era stuff, because there are a lot of good Disney games out in that time frame. I wouldn't mind seeing them pop back up on Steam or GOG or the current consoles, or the NX or 3DS. Those would be great. So,
I mean, I think if they re-released Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5 on PlayStation next year ahead of free, I mean, obviously they might not want to take away time from free, but that would be a big hit, and it would tide them over a little bit for getting Disney content out there for these consoles. Maybe bring it to Xbox One as well, but I can't see that happening. But I don't know, there's a lot going on, and it should be interesting to see how they get along.
And I have said in the past, and I will continue to say, if they bring Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5, or like 1.6, whatever they want to call it, I will get them, because I don't have a PlayStation 3 anymore. I don't have a PS2. I don't have a PlayStation 1, although it wasn't on PS1. Never mind. I've never played the Kingdom Hearts games. I played the mobile game for a little while there, but I have not played Kingdom Hearts 1. I have not played Kingdom Hearts 2. I have not been following Kingdom Hearts 3 because I have no investment in it.
Yeah.
But from everything I've heard, if they make a PlayStation 4 port, or even if they make the digital version of it backwards compatible or something like that, I will get it. I'll play it. The hype is there.
Yeah.
I just don't have access to the game.
No, and I think like you say, it's re-releases aren't great, but I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the coming year of just trying to fill it. I don't think Star Wars side. I mean, we saw those PlayStation games get re-released last year. I think the trouble is, again with this re-release and stuff, is backwards compatibility with the Xbox One for the 360 has one issue of Tron Evolution and Pirates of the Caribbean, Lego and stuff can bring them up, but also PlayStation. I think then also Sony seem to be pushing the re-releasing PlayStation 2 stuff rather than re-released. And there's this whole thing of people don't want to keep paying, and there's only so much people are going to pay. But I think we'll see a lot of PlayStation 2 stuff on the PlayStation 4 over the coming year. Of just like, let's just keep chucking out some bits and pieces here and there. I think Lego. But again, it's going to take years before we get stuff from them.
It might be and it might not. We've got some older Lego games now. We've got the original Lego Pirates of the Caribbean, the original Star Wars games. it might not be that hard for them to kind of push out some re-releases on those, maybe update them a little bit. I don't want to speak for the programmers because I'm like, yes, I'm sure it's not that hard, and they're just sitting there like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I think, you know, re-releasing PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 games, for me at least, is not that big a deal because they were never available digitally in the first place. But if we're talking PlayStation 3 games or Xbox 360 games, it's like, I have some of those digitally. If you want me to buy it again, we might have some words because I've already given you money for this game and it's sitting right there. I just don't have access to it.
Yeah. I think we've said before, I think Lego Dimensions makes that sense from that point of view of they can get that content out about their movies quicker to do it, but they might want to just jump back into doing licensed video games for, you know, Cars 3 and Incredibles 2, you know, and they should be having those discussions with those companies now to get them ready for when those movies come out. Again, I'm sure they will do, because that's, to be honest, that's where I think the game they need to go back to. As much as these Disney games sometimes have got bad reputations for being cash grabs, and they're kids games, and that's what they're supposed to be. You know, the Incredibles 2 or whatever they want to call it. You know, we're not talking Uncharted 4 here. This is as much as we'd love that, and it might say whether that's not primarily who's going to buy it.
No, although now that I think about it, if they wanted to make an Incredibles game in the style of, say, Infamous or something like that, I'd totally be in on that. I would totally give them my money for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just like Disney Smash Brawl.
They've got enough characters. Heck, it could just be a Pixar Smash Brawl at this point. They you know, they never would. They don't want to have characters. They don't want to have people thinking about their characters beating each other up. But that'd be fun.
Yeah. This is just like, he could just be like Eve just going nuts on Wreck-It Ralph.
I think Eve would probably be like the most powerful character in the game of Pixar characters, but yeah.
Right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up this week's show. Sorry for the technical issues in the middle there. They will be edited out watching it live.